Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we're currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is the woman who occasionally chomps on my arm. It's Charlotte.
Yes.
Hi, Charlotte. How you
Hello.
doing? You okay?
I'm all right, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to just address the elephant in the room before we get into this?
Sorry, we missed a week.
Yeah, we missed a week. Charlotte says as she comes off of a yawn.
I'm sorry. We have had other fun things happening in our life, and it's left very little time for us to do our other passion, which is Doggy Who. So we've watched this episode.
Yeah, we watched this episode. Was it on the Saturday or was it the day after?
Yeah, we watched it on the Saturday.
Yeah, we watched it on the Saturday, and then we meant to record as we usually do on a Sunday, and then just, other stuff. We had a bit of a social thing on Saturday, and then we went away for a couple of days, so we're only now getting around to it. Yeah. So, sorry, but thank you for bearing with us. We're going to give Series 2, our next episode is Army of Ghost Doomsday. Mm-hmm. We're going to give that a miss for this week, and then we'll get around to it next week.
Yeah.
But, yeah, thank you for listening to our tangent. Mm-hmm. Right, Charles.
Hello.
We are covering today Series 15 or Season 2. What train are you on? You Season 2 or you Series 15? How do you think about this? I was against the whole Season 1 thing, but I've realised that's where I default to now. I think of this as Season 2, not Series 15.
The reason I get confused is I can't remember whether it's season or series, and therefore if it was 15, I could just say 15, and I wouldn't have to remember which one it is.
Yeah, it's easy for me to distinguish because I can just separate series and season. That's fine. But it gets confusing because classic Who is season.
I mean, we're not even going to get started.
So we got Season 1 with William Hartnell, Series 1 with Christopher Eccleston, and then Season 1 again with Ncuti Gatwa.
Yeah, no, I can't. Can't we call it something else? Can we make a new name instead of like a season?
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Volume 2.
Volume 2. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tangent already, Jesus. So yeah, this is episode 4 of Series 15 or Season 2. It's called Lucky Day. It aired on May 3rd, 2025 and was written by Peter McTighe. Mm-hmm. Peter McTighe, well, I guess before we get into anything, I was going to say, even before watching this, I had, mixed feelings, thinking this is either going to be quite good or quite bad. Mm-hmm. And that's because this was written by Peter McTighe, who previously wrote for Doctor Who. He did Kablam, and he did Praxeus. Not great episodes in my eyes, so I was like, I'm dubious about this. But it was also directed by Peter Hoare, who has directed for Doctor Who before. He did A Good Man Goes to War back in Series 6, and he also directed episode 3 in both seasons of The Last of Us TV show.
Oh.
So, Season 1, Episode 3 and Season 2, Episode 3 he did, and they're both very good.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is going to go one of either way. And weirdly enough, personally, I'm kind of in the middle. There are things about this that I liked, there are things that I didn't like. I think I lean more towards liking it than I do disliking it, but I still don't feel like super passionate about it. What are your thoughts?
I'm so conflicted. So I can't actually remember what you initially told me the basic plot was going to be.
Yeah.
But I remember you telling me it and going, oh no, I don't want that. So I wasn't looking forward to this episode.
Yeah.
And then it started and I was like, actually, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, I wonder, I bet I know what point, what point that turned around.
Yeah. And from there on, not so much. And I don't know whether that's the point. Maybe it is.
Right. A bit of background for this, actually, because I bumped into my brother who watched this before I did. And he told me, he said, have you seen it yet? I said, no, not yet. He said, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but what I'll tell you is this is probably one of my least favourite episodes of Doctor Who ever.
Really?
So I was like, uh-oh. So I went into this thinking this is gonna be doo-doo, this is gonna be doody. And then we watched it, and as we were watching it, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. This is fine. And then there's a certain thing that happens halfway through where I was like, I see why he disliked this.
Yeah.
It leans a bit heavy. Its social commentary is not subtle.
No.
But then I feel like I do think it takes a bit of a nosedive in the second half. Not in principle, but in execution. But when I think about the episode overall, I'm kind of on... I think of it as on the high end of mid.
I've just noticed something. Again, we're jumping in. This is a little bit of a spoiler.
Right.
So spoiler warning if you haven't already watched this.
Yeah.
Who do you say something... Who's the guy who wrote this?
Pete McTighe.
He seems to have a theme.
Yeah. Heavy-handed social commentary.
with actually humanity is the villain.
Yes.
And I don't like that. Look, we all know humanity's the villain.
I think it can be done well.
It can be.
However,
I don't think it
he's
is.
very heavy-handed with it. It feels as if he's saying, hey, see this thing? This is bad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really leave much room for thoughts. Like, there's nothing for you to really sink your teeth into and talk about. It's pretty much just like, well, that's how he feels about that. He says this is bad, and that's it.
Yeah. It's definitely got some interesting things, obviously, we will get into discussing.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It does a rug pull, doesn't it? Because this episode seems like it's going to be one thing, and then it turns into something else.
Yeah.
Which you could argue, like, say, Dot and Bubble last series did, but I think that did it. That did something similar in the sense of with Dot and Bubble, but it did it the other way around. Because Dot and Bubble, I thought, wow, this is really heavy-handed social commentary. And then it did a rug pull and turned out it was about something completely different. And then I felt the fact that I was bamboozled was the point. Yeah. And I felt like I was kind of being atted in that episode.
Yeah.
Where with this one...
And that definitely gave you something to think about.
100%. Yeah.
And that...
Because it was... It's what it seemed to be about one thing and was really heavy-handed, but then when you realise, oh no, it's actually about this other thing. It's obviously about that other thing, but it's not heavy-handed at all. It's very mature and very subtle in the way it's done.
Yeah.
With this, the heavy-handed thing is the rug pull. It's like Dot and Bubble, but reversed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel kind of mixed on it.
Shall we get in and see if our discussions possibly bring anything else to light and maybe change our mind?
Okay. Right, so the episode starts. It's New Year's Day. We're looking at London. There's fireworks going off, and the TARDIS lands under a bridge. The Doctor and Belinda pop out, as they've been doing every week, to use the Vindicator. And they do their thing, just pop it on the floor, let it kind of beep around for a minute or so. And the Doctor's just trying to work out where they are, because obviously they're still at this point trying to get to 2025.
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's definitely Earth. It's London. And then he finds a 50 pence piece on the floor. And he's like, yeah, we're definitely getting close. And then at this point, a young boy appears. So they introduce themselves. He says, I'm the Doctor. This is Belinda Chandra. He says his name is Conrad. And they ask what year it is. And Belinda's like, please tell me it's 2025. And he just like shakes his head. 2024? Shakes his head. She's like, does it start with a 20? He's like, it's 2007. And that made me feel disgusting. The fact that that's like historical now. I don't like it. But the Doctor basically realizes it's New Year's, and he says he loves New Year's because of all the hopes and all the possibilities. And he offers the 50p to Conrad. And Conrad says, why? I was in like, why are you giving it to me? And he says, 'cause it's your lucky day. Okay.
Yeah.
It seems like just a name drop the episode, really, but like...
Which is done 3 times in this?
Well, it's the name of his podcast later on.
And he mentions about... We'll get into it, but he does a couple more times.
This is the point where I'm immediately like, this kid's a douche, where the kid just snatches the 50p and runs off.
I don't know. I think that's quite fair.
He just mugged this man. Well, technically, I guess he offered it to him, but it wasn't like, oh, thank you, sir, and then walk away. He just snatches it and legs it. And he runs over to his mum, who's watching the fireworks, and he's like, Mum, this blue box appeared out of nowhere with a Doctor and a Belinda Chandra.
And she just smacks it.
She just smacks him square in the face. And she says, no more lies, you're ruining my night. And she's like, she's drinking like a Strongbow or something.
I don't know. And then she just just puts her arm around this man and just ignores him. You got to feel sorry for him, because...
I mean, yes... but it doesn't excuse what he is.
Well, I don't know.
We'll get into this later.
I don't know. I mean, not that it excuses it at all. No, be better. But you got to feel bad for him having a poor upbringing.
Because it's one of those things, when people have a poor upbringing, it like... it's never going to result in something good, really.
No, it's not.
Like, you have those times. Is it Will Smith who like said he didn't have like a great childhood or something, so he felt very like protective and he wanted to give his children what he didn't have, but then that develops into him slapping Chris Rock on stage. So,
well, I don't think it develops into that. I think that's more his relationship.
That's what I mean.
With
you got to feel
wife.
bad for those kind of people because they are trapped in a situation that was out of their control.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. And as a kid, do you know what I mean? You can't just walk away. Do you know what I mean? You're stuck in that position, and it's awful. But at the same time, we are still responsible for our own actions. And
oh yeah, completely.
yeah, we'll avoid this for now because we'll get into this later because this is going to go off topic. But yeah, at this point, Conrad is now narrating this episode. The framing device is he's now an adult and he's basically hosting a podcast and he's kind of recounting the events we just saw on his podcast. And he says he's been following that box ever since. And today he has a guest on the pod, someone who's actually been inside that box. And it's last series companion Ruby Sunday. And she introduces herself and that's it. That's a cold open. Yeah.
What was your opinion of this? Like, were you like, oh, Ruby, what are you doing, man? Like,
there was a part of me.
mean?
There was a part of me that, like, obviously not really knowing anything about Conrad at this point. There was a part of me that was just like, does Ruby have nothing going on?
I know. I was
The
thinking,
thing is, we get a bit
so
more
hope.
information now after the titles as to why she's there. But initially, I was like, does Ruby have so little going on? She's going to go on this like losers podcast.
I know. I hope she knows this man, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'll go on for a favor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not like
Childhood friend or something.
yeah, and not like, oh yeah, I'm a companion and I'm
I want
cool.
my story told.
I want my 15 minutes of fame. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, that
Isn't the
does
case.
get dispelled quite quickly.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that was like,
Please,
what are you
Ruby,
doing,
no.
Ruby?
Yeah, don't do it.
I'm just gonna say it's nice to see Ruby again.
Do you know what? I'm gonna put this little thing in here,
Yeah.
which I think, because how do I say this? I think Ruby is such a better character when she's on her own.
I agree.
I think she's completely lost with the Doctor.
I think
he has so much character, and he's so like energetic.
Yeah.
She seems, because she's quite quiet and
She
withdrawn.
seems like wallpaper in comparison, like when next to the Doctor, particularly Shooty's Doctor.
Yeah, I think she doesn't
She's
have
so-
a chance to express herself because she's quite.
Well, she's probably one of the most, like, of all the companions we've had, at least in New Who, she's probably one of the ones that's just the most normal person.
Yeah, because she's
Where,
not like.
I can describe Rose as kind of chavvy, do you know what I mean? I can say Donna is sarky and quippy, and Clara is sarcastic. Where like Ruby's the one that's just like, I struggle to define her in any way.
I think the best thing, which we've mentioned before, is the fact that all of the previous companions have that confidence. They have that like self-assertiveness.
Yeah.
Where they can speak for themselves. She doesn't have that, and therefore she very much takes the back foot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like
she
Bill's
seems
closer, and maybe if you go look at Jodie's companions, Yaz and Ryan, they're kind of similar. Yaz has got a bit more of oomph to her.
I feel like Bill like has more personality because Bill is kind of sarcastic and you know she's got those traits. I feel like Ruby is more like Yaz in the sense of
she's very
just
quiet.
more normal person. Just not even quiet, because I think saying quiet makes her sound shy. I don't think she is shy. I think
she is. I think she is. She's like reserved I think is the word I'm looking for. Where's the other companions?
That's me. Next to like Donna Noble, everyone seems reserved.
Yeah, but they wear their hearts on their sleeves. Do you mean they're not afraid to let themselves be known? Where she's very different and she holds back quite a lot.
How do you know she's holding back and not she just doesn't have much?
Because when we see her on her own, we see so much more.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, though. I do feel like she's a lot more interesting on her own, because I feel like last series, the episode she had most to shine was definitely 73 Yards.
Yeah.
And granted, of course, she will have more to do in an episode where she doesn't have to share the screen with someone else. That's a given. But yeah, no, I agree with that statement. And it's funny, because I can't remember if we actually said it on the pod or whether I was just talking to you outside of recording, but I did say this season so far, I like Belinda more than Ruby as a companion in terms of episode by episode being with the Doctor. But it wasn't until this episode I realised that I do quite like Ruby, and it was good to see her again.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's great. I think, well, we get onto this a little bit later, but I think the reason her being reserved is why when we get time with her alone, we get more. But I'll expand later.
I don't think that sentence made sense.
It may not, but I'll explain it. We'll get there.
Right, yeah. So, Conrad is narrating this podcast, and he says 2007, that was when he saw the box for the first time, and then 17 years later, last year, it happened again. So we see Conrad's basically walking down an alleyway. You recognise that alleyway?
Yeah, I think I did.
It's the alley in Cardiff. I think it's by, where like the Moon Club is?
Yeah.
I think it's like down that alley. It's also, they did shoot there before the TARDIS landed there in The Empty Child. So yeah.
I'm almost certain that this was shot in Howells as well, the old Howells building, this section.
It was the old House of Fraser.
Yeah, Howells.
Yeah. Where because it was, so the inside of this store that we're going to enter in a minute is where Rose worked at Henrik's, the fictional shop. Yeah, same place. Conrad, basically now an adult, is walking down the street and he finds the TARDIS in an alleyway, and he goes over and he goes to like kind of touch it, and then he hears a scream nearby. So he goes into the shop, and something I did notice here is that when he's like walking around, on the wall behind him it says Chez Allison on the wall, and that was the name of the shop that Donna said she bought her wedding dress from in The Runaway Bride. So it's like when he's walking around, there were like mannequins everywhere wearing like veils and bridal gowns and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a weird detail that was like, it's never addressed, but it's cool that they just brought back this shop that was referenced once in a Christmas special 15 years ago. But yeah. So he goes into the shop and he's kind of investigating because he hears like a creature roaring now as well. And something runs behind him and he's kind of like freaking out. Oh, what was that? And that's when you realise he's got this kind of like green goop on him.
Yeah.
Whatever's there seems to run past again, and at this point he takes cover and he starts like hiding. And then the Doctor and Ruby appear, and they're talking about the creature and whatever's there. Ruby says, "Please tell me I haven't just been peed on." The Doctor says, "It's more like vomit. The pheromones absorb into your bloodstream and mark you as its future prey." And she's like, "Oh God, that's gross. Don't even look at me." And the Doctor gives her like a vial of something. He says, "This is an antidote." He says, "It tastes like candy floss." It doesn't.
It doesn't. No.
She drinks it and she goes, "Oh, that's disgusting." And he's just laughing. He says, "Yeah, sorry I lied, but on the bright side, I can't track you down anymore." And they leave. And Conrad's obviously like heard this entire like kind of interaction, and he kind of follows them outside. And he watches them go back into the TARDIS. And Ruby says, "I can't believe, like, a couple hours ago, we were with the Beatles." She says, like, John Lennon owes me a piano lesson or something. Yeah. So I guess we know that's where this fits into their timeline. This is between The Devil's Cord and Boom. Because No, I was going to say there's a 6-month time gap, but I'm pretty sure the time gap is between Space Babies and Devil's Cord, right? No, sorry. Is there a 6-month gap between Ruby Road and Space Baby? I can't remember. There's a 6-month gap somewhere.
I'm assuming it's a Space Babies.
Honestly, I can't remember. I just remember thinking it was weird because Boom is supposed to be the first time Ruby goes to an alien planet, and I remember thinking it's weird that they've been traveling for like 6 months, and this is the first time she's going to an alien planet. yeah, there's a gap somewhere. But yeah, this is set between episodes 2 and 3 in season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Ruby's getting into the TARDIS, Conrad kind of snaps a photo of her quickly. And it's like Snapchat or something, because he puts like a text box over it that seems to be like Snapchat.
Yeah.
And he says, have you seen this woman? And he says, I was looking for you for a whole year. And then we kind of get this like flashback within a flashback of Conrad at his podcast studio.
Yeah.
He's got a studio. He's higher budget than us.
Well, it's more like an office, really, isn't it?
That's what I mean. He's got an office. Makes us look amateur, doesn't it? Yeah. So he's at this office, and then Ruby shows up with her phone, and she's got the picture.
Yeah.
That says, has anyone seen this woman? So that's why Ruby's there. He's essentially taken a photo of her and has put the feelers out to try and find her. And she's shown up and is like, what do you want? Yeah. But she somehow, she's agreed to be part of his podcast. What I did find interesting here is, so obviously the two of them are talking, and when the camera's on Conrad, behind him, he's got like newspaper clippings on the wall.
Yeah.
I did notice one of them was a newspaper clipping that had a photo, and the photo was a screen grab of the Slitheen ship crashing into Big Ben in Aliens of London. And there's also, you can't actually see what the headline, and this is going to make me sound so nerdy, but there's you can't see the headline or any of the story, but you can see a bit of the image, like maybe like a third of the image, and it's the TARDIS next to like a blue metal box. It's that shot from Fear Her. You know, when the TARDIS lands between the two boxes, it's literally that shot, but they've used that as like a photograph for this newspaper clipping.
You're such a nerd. I'm not surprised.
Well, they shouldn't have used such a identifiable blue metal bin.
A really identifiable.
I can't think of another time the TARDIS landed next to a metal blue box.
I couldn't have thought of any.
If I showed you the picture, I'd be curious to be like, would you know which episode this is from?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So now you're just as bad as me.
I'll get in a bin.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, so he tells Ruby to introduce herself. She says she's 20. She's from Manchester. She has 2 mums and a new dad. Conrad asks how she ended up in the shop with the doctor that day. And she basically said that her and the doctor traveled together and they were looking for something. And Conrad says, aliens. And Ruby's like, they're real. Aliens are real. We all know that. And Conrad makes this face where he's like, kind of like, yes. But I guess in context of knowing what comes later, that being a forced smile seems really obvious on a second viewing.
Yeah.
But Conrad says that some people are saying that UNIT and monsters and all that stuff is just a cover story for something else.
Well, he says trolls online, doesn't he?
Yes.
Trolls online.
Yeah.
Are you calling yourself a troll?
That's very like 2010 speak, isn't it? Yeah, so Ruby says some people are just afraid of the truth. She says the people at UNIT are amazing and they've been keeping us safe for years. And he says, like the doctor? She's like, yeah, like the doctor. So then we cut to after they finish recording their podcast, and Conrad says to Ruby that he's been trying to get UNIT on the pod for years, but they never return his calls.
Yeah.
Ruby says, I'm sure it's nothing personal. They're just really busy all the time. And he asks where she lives, and she says somewhere, I can't remember where. And he says there's a cafe just around the corner if you want to get coffee or something. And then he does the typical meet cute thing of dropping his papers everywhere.
Oh, he's like, well, just coffee or like nothing else. And he's like, fumble.
I hate this trope. This isn't a Doctor Who thing. This is just a film and TV show thing where people are like, oh, I'm so, because I'm the nice guy. I'm so nervous and I can't speak without stumbling over my way. Oh, I've dropped the papers. Oh. And then they have to bend over and she's like, no, I'll help you. And then do you know what? I'm surprised they didn't reach out for the same thing and touch hands.
No, he didn't want to touch her.
Yeah, so she helps him like pick his stuff up and she says, yeah, sure, let's get coffee. So then we cut to the coffee shop and Conrad is watching a video. Well, Ruby's got her phone and she's like showing him a video of the Shriek, which is the monster that was there in Ches Allison the year prior. Ruby says the Shriek live in a pocket dimension and they leave the hive once a year to hunt, and this one somehow found its way to Earth. She says UNIT captured it, but this video is from last night, so it's come back to the same place 1 year later. Yeah. So, she says it marked its prey and was hunting him, basically, when it gooped on him. The unit have captured it now, so he's safe, basically. Conrad says, like, what would have happened? And she says, well, first things first, the lights would go out. She says, the shriek's background radiation messes with electricity. Then it would show itself to get your heart racing, taking its time. It wants you scared.
The way she says it is so...
She's trying to freak him out.
She's so sinister.
Yeah.
I love it.
Again, this is one of the few things I noticed in this episode. I talk about Peter Hoare being a good director. I love this sequence though, because when she's like telling this, like the lighting in the room changes.
Yeah.
Like it gets darker. Like they're talking about this in the day, and they're sat kind of not far from the window, but all the light coming through the window seems to just disappear. It looks like it's nighttime all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then like the room seems to be lit by these little candles, and it's really well like shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Ruby said like it wants you scared. Conrad says why, and she says because it likes the taste. And then they're like disturbed by someone opening the door and ringing the little bell, like a ding-a-ling-a-ling. And then we smash cut and we're back in the daylight again. And Conrad's like, oh, you tell a good story. Ruby gives Conrad the antidote. She just has one. I don't know how she has one.
I don't know, maybe...
The doctor gave her one, and they thought they dealt with the only one, right? So why would Ruby have another one? I don't know.
Maybe unit. Because she would have been on the... I don't know.
It only makes sense if they knew Conrad was there
Maybe.
that day, and then they planned on giving it to him.
Either that or possibly unit... Or the doctor gave Ruby some more and said, just in case... She wasn't the only one.
I love the thought that she's got like antidotes like that just in her fridge, just for random stuff, just in case.
Yeah, she's got like a tiny little box in her purse full of like individual antidotes for each thing.
Yeah, you know when you get those like little tester perfumes?
Yeah.
She's got those with just a million different like sci-fi drugs and antidotes.
Yeah.
But she gives him the antidote and tells him to take it tonight so the Shriek can't track him, just to be safe. She does say, though, take it before you go to bed because it makes you sleepy. He says it was meeting the Doctor in 2007 that got him into UFOs and aliens and stuff in the first place. And he shows her the 50p that the Doctor gave him as a child. He's now wearing it as like a necklace.
Yeah.
He said, the Doctor said it was my lucky day, but he was wrong because that's today. What? You were shipping this. You were loving this. You were there like pointing your fingers together like kiss.
No, the issue is, right, I know. I know, you know when something's going too, quote unquote, well.
One TV.
Something's going too easy.
Right, yeah.
I had different thoughts.
Did you have your alarm bells ringing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had different thoughts of how this was going to go.
Right.
I thought that he was going, especially when he said, oh, do you want to get coffee? My alarm bells were like, this man is literally just going to try and date Ruby to get to the Doctor.
Yes, I had that thought too, especially later on when they're at the pub and he keeps saying like, we'll be like you and the Doctor, and he says it quite a lot. Yeah, I had the same vibe. I guess...
I assume that's what they were trying to do. They were either going to do that thing of, you're going to believe they're in a relationship, or you're going to think that he's trying to get to the Doctor.
Yeah. I guess this is a good time to bring it up. People have rightfully pointed out, because I kind of picked up similarities as well, between this episode and Love and Monsters.
Yeah, I said that. Because I said, initially I said, I wonder if they're going to do like another Love and Monsters group of people who have seen the Doctor.
Yes.
And are trying to find him, or, you know...
Well, that's the thing. I think it doesn't really end up being that way in the end, but that's the way I thought it was going, because if you look at Conrad and you look at Elton, these are two men who met the Doctor as a child during some kind of event and stood out to them. Ever since, they've been keeping an eye out for the blue box.
Yeah.
They've become borderline obsessed, essentially, with him and the TARDIS. Obviously, Elton sort of explores this through like blogs, and he records little like videos with his camera in his attic where Conrad hosts a podcast and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought this thing was going to be them essentially getting close to the companions as an excuse to get close to the Doctor. Yeah, that's what I thought this was going for. And that's why I think those similarities are a lot more obvious at the start. Yeah. But then as the episode unfolds, it kind of deviates away from that a little bit.
Maybe it is the same in the sense of, you know, there's two ways that you could have turned out.
Yeah. Which one would you rather be? Would you rather be in prison or in a relationship with a paving slab?
Are you the paving slab?
No, it's Moaning Myrtle. Obviously.
Oh, no. Nah, I'm all right.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, Ruby tells him to take the antidote before he goes to bed because it makes you sleepy. He says, on one condition. And she's like, what? And he's like, I buy you dinner. Or we both buy dinner. No, I don't have to buy dinner if that's too old-fashioned. And I'm like, dude, stop, please.
Aww.
Stop being cringe, dude.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put it here now. When this guy is fake cringing and not fake cringing, he's just real cringe. his whole vibe this episode is just
cringe.
Cringe.
Oh no. Cringe.
Cringy.
Yeah, so now we cut to Ruby getting ready for a date with Conrad. Carla, her mum, well, her adopted mother, goes to take a photo of her.
Carry on. I've got some...
She left the flash on, didn't she, Char? And she took the photo. Ruby was like, no, not with the flash. And he's like, whoosh. And he's like, oh, and then she's like, oh yeah, maybe not. And then deletes it.
I mean, that's not what I was going to bring up, but
No.
that did give me a chuckle, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so then she takes another one with the flash off, like a Satan person. And then we hear Cherry, the grandmother from the other room. She's like, how you spell him name?
I'm not... Right. This is, for me, what I know this sounds so terrible.
Right.
This is where the alarm bells went off for me.
Right, okay.
For two questions, right? If this man was known online
Yes.
to be what he actually was,
Yeah.
how didn't it come up in the search on Instagram?
Well, we'll have to get into this later.
And two, Cherry said that he's got a topless photo on Instagram.
No, it was Carla that says that.
Okay, it's got a topless photo on Instagram. Red flag. Red flag. That came up and I was like, this man is a liar.
I mean, he could...
No Mr. Fumbly is going to have a freaking topless shirt.
Mr. Fumbly.
Yeah, he's going to have a topless photo
Well, you
on his Instagram.
You can't be meek and shredded, Charles.
No, there's a difference between...
I just assume he's shredded because he's got a topless photo. He could have a proper dad bod, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? No, it's the difference between having the chutzpah, the balls,
the chutzpah,
to put that online.
Yeah.
Versus, do you mean like, if you were shredded as shit, would you be posting photos like that on Instagram?
On the daily.
No, you wouldn't, you liar. You're a lurker. You ain't a poster. You're a lurker.
I mean, let me open my Instagram just to see when the last time I posted
I was going to say so long ago.
My last Instagram post is dated June 9th, 2022, and the caption is annual Insta post.
You're such a millennial. I know you're not even a millennial. You're a Gen Z.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. No. Just
we'll get into this in a bit.
Just red flags.
Yeah, Cherry asks how you spell his name, and Ruby's like, "Oh my god, stop stalking him. He's nice and he's normal."
She's wrong.
And Carla goes, "Clark, no E. If you scroll down, he's got his shirt off." Ruby's like, "Mum," she's like, "Don't pretend you haven't looked."
I'd just like to say that, I mean, I don't know whether this is the case for everyone, but definitely for my group of friends, especially when I was younger. Do you mean this was very much a thing? It was like, oh, you're going out with somebody, everybody quick, find everything you know about this man.
I get it more with like friends. I can imagine like gossipy like teenage girls being like, "Ooh, let me see the photos." I think there's something else when your nan's like, "Yeah, let me see your shirtless pics."
Well, well, less that, but I think it's more that kind of thing of like, I'm going to do my research on this man because...
Want to make sure he's not a lunatic.
Yeah, they did terrible research. They should have done better.
I guess it depends on how old you're. Like in Ruby's case, I get it. But like when you're in school, it's like, there's not much research needed really, because if you go to school with them, you know what they like, right?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I feel like you know them enough to know if they have red flags.
Again, I don't know.
Okay.
Again, because it could be just a normal guy in school, but if he's got a shirtless photo on Instagram,
if he's
red
got
flag.
a Tinder pic of him holding a fish, you know, oh no, mate, no.
He's a keeper. He's a hobbit.
Yeah. So now we smash cut to Conrad and Ruby in a bar.
Yeah.
And Conrad's like laughing and he says, "Your grand sounds hilarious." And Ruby does, "This is a red flag." And Ruby goes, "My entire family is mad." I hate that. People always say that. Everyone's like, "My family," no one's like my family. My family's mental. You're like it, you say it.
Yeah, but mine's right. Mine's actually true. You say that, but you have openly said that is true.
Let's hope none of them ever listen to this.
I love you all, and I'm part of you. I am part of the mad family. I belong there. But it is the case.
But yeah.
Yeah.
After whipping out that cliche, yeah, Ruby says, "I asked about your family before, but you changed the subject." That's like really like if you've asked him before and he changed the subject, I'd assume it's a sensitive or a sore subject. So to just out him like that for being like, "You changed the subject when I asked you."
Well, then she asks him, and then she regrets it instantly, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, I know, but there's this part of me that's like, if you think this is like a touchy subject, I'm surprised on date one you're just like...
They're not on date one.
I assume this is date one.
No.
Well, I'm not counting them when they went for coffee. I wasn't a date.
Because I can't remember... Well, it is a date. Coffee is a date. He asked her on a date.
He asked her for coffee and she showed him a video of a monster.
Yeah.
And then she spooked him.
Yeah. That's a date.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so she asked about his family before, but he changed the subject. He says his mum died of liver cancer. Ruby's obviously like, "Oh, God, I'm sorry." And he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I'm not as cool as the doctor." That's a weird thing to say.
Yeah. So weird. Like, again, that was just like...
Yeah.
Unless... Part of me was like... I noted how strange that was. But then part of me was like, I know some people who would react like that, trying to make like a comical moment of it. To try and ignore...
This is what cemented for me that, like I said, I thought the vibe was going to be he was going to be using her to get to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I thought his whole thing of like, "I'm not as cool as the doctor," and especially later on, you know, when he's like following her outside with the bat, and he's like, "Me and you, we're a team." I thought he was going to try to be the doctor and then become like just really insufferable. That's what I thought this was going. I was picturing like Clara's like season 9 arc, but in an episode.
For somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and has never met the doctor and gets
he has met him.
him.
The doctor gave him 50p.
For like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I thought this was going, and it didn't go that way.
No.
Yeah, so he says, "Sorry, I'm not as cool as the doctor," and she says, "No, you're lovely, and that's what I need right now." Poor Ruby.
This is what I wanted to bring up, right?
Yeah.
So, from my sentence earlier that you said that made no sense.
Right. Yeah.
The fact that Ruby has said that with her friends, she talks to him about all the things that has happened in her life. I don't know whether it happens right here or like in a couple of moments from this point.
Yeah.
But she says that she's never been able to speak to any of them about these things, about these horrible things that have happened to her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't think they'll understand or they'll make fun of her. But I think she's quite reserved anyway. So I feel like she worries or fears too much about what people think about her.
Yeah.
And therefore is less likely to open up.
Do you think she's more likely to open up with someone she doesn't know as well? For that reason? Because it's that thing of like, if you judge me, then I don't have to see you again.
No, I think with him, she feels comfortable and she thinks he actually understands her. And he genuinely likes spending time with it. And I think this is why it's so tragic. because she actually does seem to open up to him in a way that she hasn't been able to open up to anyone else. Do you mean she hasn't spoken to any of her family members about this?
Yeah.
She obviously hasn't spoken to the doctor about this.
Yeah.
But
she's not seen him in a hot minute.
She finally opens up to somebody, and I think that's why it's quite sad.
Yeah. Well, he asks the doctor, he asks if the doctor was her boyfriend. And she says, no, if he was here right now, he'd be flirting with you. What does he say in response to that? I can't remember what he says.
I can't remember.
I think he says something like, I wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he asks about the TARDIS, and she says it's the most amazing thing you'd ever see in your life. And they're obviously just talking, and he says, I'm really enjoying this. And then we get the camera like panning back out as they have their night. And then we cut to them walking home. And Ruby says, my friends think I'm mad and I'm having a breakdown. And he says, I think you're amazing. And then they lean in and they have a smooch.
Aww.
I looked at you at this moment and you literally did the thing. You literally kiss.
I was just hoping that...
You were just ignoring all the red flags.
Yeah. I was like, oh, come on. She deserves a break. Give her somebody nice. Come on, please.
After 73 yards, she deserves a break.
Just give it somebody.
Yeah. So now we've kind of fast forward an undetermined amount of time. Ruby's leaving for date number 5 with Conrad and his friends.
Yeah.
She kisses her 2 mums and her nan. And Cherry says, be careful. I've been to English villages. I got looks. So Ruby says, yeah, I don't think his friends are like that. And Carla says, she just watched The Wicker Man, which I found very funny. I found that very funny. Carla says to Louise that Ruby's not mentioned the doctor in weeks.
Yeah.
So she's smitten, we can say.
Yeah. And I think from their point of view, I mean, Ruby brings it up later on, but she's very much in limbo. She's waiting for the doctor.
Yeah.
And she talks about him a lot, whereas she's kind of not letting go, but kind of accepting the fact that... She's
accepting the fact that he's not the only thing in her life.
Yeah.
And she can have a life without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Conrad's actually allowing her to have that.
Yeah. So now we cut to a bus stop. The two of them have gone into the countryside somewhere. They get off a bus. This is when they're walking down the like coastal path and they're talking, and we noticed that the screen was weirdly blurred around the sides.
Yeah. Yeah, because, well, they're standing on the bus stop initially, and it's just the two of their faces, and there's people in the background, but it's really blurred.
They're like walking down the street, and the camera's in front of them. And there's like they're walking towards the camera and the camera's moving backwards. But yeah, the footage is weirdly blurred around the sides to the degree where I think we said to each other, didn't we, while watching it, like, is this intentional? Like, is this just bad camera focus, or is this like going to be a thing? Is this going to be revealed later on to be like a dream sequence? Or...
Well, yeah, you said that. You said whether is this real? Yeah,
because the way it was shot was very odd, and I was like, I bet there's going to be something like, hey, in this place, this is going to be a dream or a different dimension or something like that. Well, and it's not. No, it's just really, really bad focus on the camera.
Yeah, well, I thought less that and thought more, because I had a feeling that he hadn't taken the medication or the antidote.
Right.
I thought, this man's not going to take it. I don't know why, just got vibes.
Okay.
So I thought with the blurriness that the creature may be in the background somewhere.
Right, okay.
And I didn't know whether because we watched it without pausing it. We just watched all the way through. I didn't know whether if you'd paused it, you would have seen it at this point. So I didn't know whether they were trying to hide stuff in the editing kind of thing. I don't know whether that is the case. I don't know whether there is anything
doubt
there.
It. I feel like I would have heard that somewhere.
Obviously, I don't think the creature was there, but I don't know whether, I don't know, anything else was.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, it was just an instance of really weird light. The only other thing I can think of is maybe it was a direction choice to be like, hey, this shows how Ruby's like blocked everything out because her and Conrad are so like, you know, intimate together that everything around them is just a blur because they're so like into each other. Maybe it's one of those like stylistic choices.
Maybe.
But I just remember watching it, and even on the second time watching it, I was like, oh man, it doesn't look right. It looks wrong.
Oh.
But yeah, side tangent over.
Yeah.
Ruby says they're talking about her parents and how they were making a big hoo-ha about them going to like on a date together with their friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Ruby says, "You'd think I'd never had a relationship with the way my parents are going on about it." And Conrad says, "You said relationship. Am I your boyfriend?" And she said, "Let's see how this weekend goes." And he kind of smugly goes, "I'm your boyfriend." And then he walks away. And then at this point we see the bus stop sign is like glitching.
Yeah.
And the electric is kind of like staticky and flickering, and the sign's like buzzing. And Ruby does notice, I think. So then we cut to the pub at night, and they're all sat around a table. That's Ruby, Conrad, and a bunch of his friends. It's Ruby's round, so she goes up to the bar with a friend who initially in my notes I just had her down as the friend, and then I found out later her name was Elsa, apparently. So Elsa says, "I thought we were never going to meet. He's seemingly been keeping us apart. He talks about you all the time. That means he really likes you."
Yeah.
And they order drinks, and then the electricity starts flickering in the pub. Ruby says she's just going to pop outside to make a call, and she calls Kate,
Yeah.
Lethbridge Stewart over at Unit, to check if there's a quantum echo in the area.
I've got something to mention here.
Yes.
Because she initially calls Mel.
No, she says she tried to call Mel.
Yeah. But she's...
She's in Sydney.
Yeah, she said she's dealing with something in Sydney. Do you think that's relevant to anything?
Yeah, I think that's setting up the War Between the Land and the Sea spin-off.
Oh. I didn't know whether that was going to be like kind of a...
I mean, it could be linked to the finale or something, but if I'm a better man, I'm going to say that's setting up the War Between the Land and the Sea. That's the Silurians and the Sea Devils spin-off that's coming.
Yeah.
I think it's setting that up, but I
Fair
don't know.
enough.
But yeah, Ruby says sorry for bothering her. She says she was after Mel, but Mel's in Sydney, something happening in the harbour. Ruby says, "Oh, are you working alone?" And she says yes. She's not.
No.
We see Colonel Ibrahim from the Giggle. Yeah.
Now that's the point where I'm going, kiss.
Yeah, Ibrahim gives off green flags.
Yeah.
Yeah. He comes over and he brings a cup of tea or coffee or something, and they just kind of like make
Have a
eye
little
contact
smirk,
for a couple episodes and couple seconds, and and just smile. I guess.
If they don't get together by the end of the Unit spin-off, I'll be sad. If he dies, I'll be even more sad. Like, they deserve each other. They're good peoples.
Yeah. Ruby asks if Kate's heard from the doctor lately, and Kate says no. She says, Kate also says there's nothing in the area. She says it must be a localized issue.
Yeah.
Ruby says basically sorry for bothering you, and Kate at this point, like, Ruby's on like speaker, and Kate like picks the phone up to have like a more private conversation, and basically says, "Do you think with everything you've been through, you're like on alert all the time?"
Yeah.
And Ruby basically says, "Do you think I'm paranoid?" And she's like, "Yeah, maybe." So at this point, they've like hung up. Ruby goes back inside, and Kate checks on the Shriek in lockup, and she's like, "Just checking you're still there." It is still there because this is something I just knew when she was looking in that window. I was like, "It's going to be a really bad jump scare here," and there was, and I was just like, just know where that's going.
I just like to, before we whiz past that, I'd just kind of like to reflect a little bit on the conversation between Ruby and Kate.
Yeah.
I really like the direction that they went with Ruby in this episode, because we very rarely have had companions who've been able to, often they'll say, "Oh, how can the doctor leave me here in such a mundane life?"
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever had that thing of like, they've seen horrific things, and of course they'll be on edge because they literally spent months or years with the doctor on edge, looking for things that are, terrible, because every adventure they went on with the doctor, or most of them anyway, something bad happened.
Yeah, I mean, normally when a companion leaves the TARDIS and it's framed in a negative light, it's normally how they're sad that they don't get to travel with the Doctor anymore.
Yeah.
Where this is framed more like she left the Doctor by choice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's the thing of the thing she's seen has made it essentially impossible to live everyday life anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been a thing, like you could say the same thing happened to Martha, but Martha kind of...
she embraced it, didn't she? And well, I guess Ruby does the same thing, because Ruby possibly ends up with UNIT, doesn't she?
Yeah, they both work for UNIT, but again, Ruby's got like a normal life where like Martha is like on the front line. She's going into battle, she's fighting. Same applies to Mickey. Do you know what I mean? Some companions just really, like you said, embrace it, and they choose to, I don't know, not reflect, I can't think of the right word, but they choose to, go through this process of moving on without the Doctor. Even Sarah Jane, I mean, Sarah Jane, not with UNIT, but she's doing her own kind of sleuthing on Earth.
Yeah.
And she's doing her own thing. Jack with Torchwood, where Ruby, obviously, she does work for UNIT, but she's also trying to just have a normal life. She's a teenager. She's what?
Well, she's 20.
20. Oh, yeah, she's 20 now. So... yeah, she's trying to live a normal 20-year-old's life. She's trying to work and have friends and have a boyfriend and have family, and she can't because she's so on edge because she keeps seeing things and thinking it's a thing.
Well, I think that's the difference, isn't it? Because with the others who, they're kind of looking for it.
Well, yeah, because
So
the others
try
to stand in for the Doctor.
Yeah.
They try to be, when the Doctor's not on Earth, I'm here to protect it.
But there's like a level of control there of, I know I'm going into danger, I'm looking for it, and therefore I'm always prepared.
Yeah.
Whereas, because Ruby's kind of trying to move on from it, she's not prepared, but she's also worried that just because she's not looking for it doesn't mean it's not coming. Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, I get the impression when I see like Martha and Mickey working at UNIT, I bet they make that their entire personalities. Where with Ruby, I feel like she sees UNIT as her 9 to 5 and then she wants to clock off. Do you know what I mean? And she struggles.
I feel like Ruby, she works with UNIT, but it's less, like you said, less for the love and more for the fact that she has knowledge on this.
Yeah.
She has experienced this.
Yeah.
And I guess she knows these people will understand and won't think she's mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think...
That is one positive thing with this episode, I'll say, is I think
Ruby's character, we get to see more of her.
Yeah. And to be honest, up to this point, I'm enjoying this episode.
Yeah, me too.
We haven't got to the bit yet where I'm like, right, so, Ruby goes back inside and she obviously looks a bit,
she's kind of a bit shaken, isn't she?
Conrad asks if she's okay, and she basically says, I think I have PTSD.
Yeah.
She says, I've been fighting gods, I got eaten by a double bass, kidnapped by goblins, dangled from a rope over London, and I watched the world turn to dust.
Yeah.
When you put it like that, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Well,
because there was a part of me that was like, maybe it's because she only travelled with him for a season, but and a short season. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? With that, there's part of me. It's like companions have had it worse than you. But then when she puts it like that, she's like, "Yeah, I watched the world turn to dust." I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Twice.
You know what? Fair enough. Yeah. Twice.
Well, in she went to the future of.
Oh yeah, you think the bit in the Devil's Code? Yeah. Yeah, good point.
So she's Yeah. She's had all her loved ones go.
Yeah. But yeah, Conrad says nothing's going to happen when I'm here. And I know that's like a typical thing you expect like a partner to say, like, hey, I'm going to take care of you. But it's also like, what are you going to do, mate?
Yeah. I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, okay.
What are you going to do?
All right.
Elsa comes over now because the electricity's come back on, and she's like, go on then, tell us about UNIT, the things you couldn't say on the podcast. And Conrad says, Elsa, just leave it.
Yeah. And
then the electrics go off again. And everyone's like, oh, for God's sake. And people are complaining. One of the patrons at the bar says, free drinks till they come back. And
he's like, all right.
The barman's like, hey, it's not my fault. And this is when we find out that Sparky, one of Conrad's friends, has disappeared. So Conrad's like, maybe he's gone to the toilet, I'll go look for him. And he like stands up, and Ruby looks, I don't know, very like a deer in headlights. As soon as Conrad leaves, Ruby's like, I don't know, she looks very uncomfortable just being on her own.
But I think it's less that, but she's also have that thing of, well, what if, what are they called?
The Shriek.
The Shriek. What if the Shriek have escaped, or if there's more, and he's just gone, and Sparky has been attacked
consumed.
by them.
Yeah. At this point, we hear like a scream outside, and a woman with a dog runs in, and she tells the barman to lock the doors. She says, "There's something outside. The teeth gave my dog such a fright." And at this point, we see the shrieks outside. They're like kind of dashing past the window and like hiding like behind like a nearby wall and stuff. Conrad comes back in and he says Sparky's not in the toilet. And he says to Ruby, "Ruby, I didn't take the antidote." And she says, "You have no idea what you've done." He says, "I wanted to be brave like the doctor." He says, "I'm not afraid." And she says, "You should be."
This
was the point where I was officially like, oh man, this guy's going to be so like, I want to be the doctor but this is going to be like his villain arc. Do you know what I mean? I was like, do you know what arc he's got? He's got, what's his name from Megamind?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Well, he's kind of got...
He's like, he wants to try so hard to be the hero and not have it go his way that he's just going to become the villain.
Yeah.
Like, that was the vibe I had going into this. Yeah.
I know it's obviously shows how little patience I have for this thing. But as soon as he was like, "I didn't take the antidote. I wanted to be brave," I was like, I hope you get eaten. I hope you get eaten. I hope your friends see you get eaten and learn from your dumb mistakes.
You could say that with the sense of like, yeah, why would you drink this mysterious liquid someone gave you? It's telling you, like, if you don't drink this, a monster's going to get you. You're going to think like, yeah, right, sure, whatever. But I'm like, no, this episode set up to this point that he does believe in aliens. So that you're thinking like, why wouldn't you take it?
Why wouldn't you take it? But even then, because even what we learn, he does believe that they are.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you take it? Because you watched her take it, and she's okay.
To be fair, he could have taken it.
Well, he obviously hasn't.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah. I was thinking about this moment, but I forgot about later on.
I know.
Yeah.
Even then, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just be like, well,
stubborn.
I guess just in case.
Stubborn.
Yeah, stupid.
So Ruby calls Unit back up again, and she's like, "Yeah, there's definitely shrieks here." So next thing we know, they're making their way over by helicopter. Ruby tells everyone in the bar to stay inside and lock the doors. At this point, this guy goes, "Excuse me, who put you in charge?" And she says, and I quote, "Go and get some fresh air then, big man, see what happens."
I love that.
Yeah, good line.
I love that. I was like
sassy
yes.
Ruby, yeah.
Because sometimes
she doesn't even look like she's like challenging him. She just looks like I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
fine, really go outside, whatever.
Yeah, I really couldn't give a damn.
Because she says it and then just immediately 180s and walks away.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like we so often get the doctor who's kind of gets a bit more of a rebuttal, and it's like, I've got experience here and I've got the knowledge, I'm the only one who could save you. But she's like, well, if you want to die, I guess die. Like, yeah. I'm not bothered.
Yeah. So Ruby grabs a fire poker, and she heads outside.
I love her.
Conrad rocks up with a bat. It's like a cricket bat or something. He's like, "I'm going to join you," and she's like, "Well, no, it's after you."
Yeah.
It's like, stay inside, you moron. Were you going to say something again?
I was going to say, I love this little clip of Ruby when she goes outside and like noises are there and she's like holding this thing and she's like, ah!
That'd be you.
She's like, she kind of realizes
she's out of her depth a little bit.
I'm completely out. I'm literally standing outside in the dark with a shriek, and all I've got is a little poker, like, to read.
Yeah, she's talking, isn't she? And she's like, "Oh, it's just me. I'm taking on a shriek or whatever." And she's like, "Oh God, if the doctor were here right now, I'd tell him to like shut up." And he's like, "Oh God, I'm talking to myself." And she's wandering outside, and the tension's like building up at this point because the music's like the strings are rising, and we can hear like the shrieking, I guess. And she gets jump scared by Conrad, who, even though she told him to stay inside, he's come out anyway, still with his bat. And he says, "We're like a team, like you and the doctor." Right. Sure, mate. But when he says that, he also holds out the like 50p necklace he's got.
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, mate, sure." At this point, a shriek jumps out, and it kind of jumps on a car, and it looks like it's going to attack. And then Eunice arrives via helicopter and plays the cheesiest music. I don't know if you thought this, but like when Unit arrived, it was like, it's like, That sounded like Back to the
It
Future.
did, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the cheese, just like fanfare music when Unit arrive. I'm like, oh, this isn't your best work here, Murray.
Yeah. It's like, oh, they've come to save the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so they arrive. I do like that we didn't get a shot of them leaving the helicopter, so we didn't have to watch Shirley like struggle to get out so she could get in her chair.
Oh no.
Yeah, so they all come over. Ruby kind of walks up to Kate and says, Kate, there's at least two of them. There's a guy called Adam Lang, who is the like technical analyst or something, and he says quantum ghosting is at 0. This doesn't make any sense. And the Shriek appear and they crawl over to a nearby car, and then they just stand up on 2 feet, like hind legs.
Because Ruby notices first of all, she's like,
wait, they're not Shriek. Yeah. And they take masks off.
Then the worst thing happens.
Yeah.
Then
and,
my whole body went, oh, please, no, don't do this.
So,
and it did.
So they're just humans with masks and makeup on, playing a prank.
Fair, pretty good.
Pretty high end prosthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, haha, gotcha, you idiots. And one of them's like got like a tape recorder and he's like playing it and it plays like the shriek, like growling noise.
Yeah.
And he goes, how'd we do, boss? And then the camera like pans over to Ruby and Unit and it pushes into Conrad and he goes, nailed it. Yeah. Are you against this because of the direction the story goes, or are you against this because you really wanted Ruby to just have someone?
In so many ways, I'm against this. Not only that, so their whole thing was to kind of, from at this point, they're saying like we're trying to out Unit and see it's all prosthetics and stuff. What would have happened if Ruby hadn't have called Unit? And she'd just been on her own.
I guess they were just trying to. I guess nothing would have happened. I assume the plan was just to freak her out until she does call Unit. I guess that was the plan.
That's what I mean. If she stood her ground and was like, "Screw this, man,"
I'm going to kill you with a fire poker.
Or what if she
just does a murder?
What if she had like a secret little gun that Unit had given her for protection? Pow pow. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know a fun little fact about this? When I spoke to Rob the other day, I think this might have been in the what's it called, Doctor Who Unleashed? Is that what the new thing's called? Like Confidential. He said, because I was talking to him about this, and I said how they like masks and stuff are like such a high quality.
Yeah.
And he said, based on that, what the production team of the show were asked to do when creating those was basically look at the design of the Shrieks to see what they look like, and then recreate it from memory. And that's why if you actually look at the actual design of the Shriek versus these guys, like costumes of them, they are kind of different.
But the issue is we see so little of the Shriek.
Yeah, we see it pretty well at the end.
At the end? But
you can't see it too much beforehand because otherwise you're going to know immediately that's not a Shriek.
Yeah, but that's my point. I would never have known that because I do not don't really remember. I remember they got glowing eyes and they're kind of weird crouched over things. That's it. That's all I remember. Maybe that's the whole point.
I feel like that's a you problem because I know what they look like.
Yeah, but you've watched it twice and researched it.
Well, I haven't like looked at loads of photos of them. Yeah, I've watched it twice, but
like I wouldn't have known any different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not meant to be like super obvious because otherwise you'd see the reveal coming, wouldn't you? But I just think that's a fun little like behind the scenes detail.
I mean, that is very, very cool. But all I'm saying is, obviously, the people in the props department had too good of memories. Do you know what I mean?
Right, it's too accurate.
It's too accurate. It needs to be. I don't know, because even the masks are too well done.
They're very high quality, aren't they?
They're extremely high quality.
Yeah.
Like, are you seriously telling me that these people are spending all that time and money?
Good physical performers as well, because when they were in costumes, they were
crouch over and jump onto things.
Yeah.
They also have electronics in these things to have the glowing eyes. Like, they've put some money into these costumes. Again,
I like how this is our nitpick.
Again, all I'll say is me and Connor, right, we don't do costumes generally, but we do like a little Halloween party or whatever, and we have made our own costumes. I'm telling you now, it is so difficult, it's so time consuming, and they're working with what I'm assuming is like prosthetics, latex kind of, and that's like,
I guess they've had a long time to prepare.
Have they?
I guess. Conrad's been setting this up forever, I guess.
That's what I mean. Would you... I'm guessing that he would have had to have known that the Shriek had come back. I guess he would have assumed that because the doctor said they'd come back every year.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have taken the antidote, obviously, because they would have to come back. So UNIT would have had to have stopped them. But then he would have had to have known that Ruby would have decided to go on a date with him or come on the podcast or come forward.
Look, I feel like this is just one of those things you're just going to have to accept.
I'm not going to because I don't like it.
So after he says, nailed it, Conrad basically opens up his jacket and he's wearing a t-shirt with Think Tank written on it. Immediately when he did this, I cringed. I was like, oh, God. Because the thing is, Think Tank is such a name that one of these kind of organizations would have. Yeah. Normally in the show like Doctor Who, when they like parody a specific type of
I think Think
demographic.
Tank is already a thing, isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know. But
when Doctor Who tries to parody these kind of things, it's normally something like way too like on the nose to ever be like realistic. Yeah. But like, I was like, oh yeah, that is so something they would call themselves. I'm just free in the world using like, you know, I think freely, man. Freedom of speech is what it's all about.
Yeah, you know that little meme? Is it Ralph from The Simpsons jumping out the window or being thrown out the window?
Yeah.
That was me at that point. Just like, oh, I'm done.
Not
with
the Homer Simpson backing off into the bush.
No, it was more visceral, just wanting to throw myself out of the window.
Yeah, so he goes, we're called Think Tank and we're exposing the lies perpetuated by UNIT. And he says, we're live streaming, so don't get trigger happy. And then all of Conrad's friends, including Elsa and Sparky, who's alive, obviously, and the two guys dressed up like Shriek, all get their phones out and they're all like live streaming.
There's one thing I like here.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I like the fact that Sparky is Sparky's electrics.
Yeah.
He would have known how to fuck about with the electrics. That's why he would have gone off.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I like that, because I'm like, of course, he would have gone to the electric room and would have been flickering with the switches, but or, you know, might have had, what's it called? Something you could plug in.
Right, yeah.
And affect, like...
If I know anything about electricians, just that they all, like, walk around with the MPs.
Yeah, but he would have been prepared.
In reality,
for that,
he's just next to the circuit breaker, just flicking the fuse on and off.
Well, he might have had is it like transitioner or trans?
You know your electrics. You know all the terms.
I swear to God, I'll throw you out the window. From where you can change the current.
A transponder.
What? No. You can adapt the current. All plugs have them. I can't remember what it's called. Transistor. Thank you.
Yeah. So Ruby says this isn't funny, and this was so mean because Conrad goes, "I have had to put up with your stories for weeks, put up with your insecurity and your vanity, your tedious piano solos." And then the line that topped this off that made me think, "You are a dick." He says, "It has been a chore getting to know you."
Right.
What an evil man.
Yeah, do you know, I would have shot him at this point.
Yeah.
I would have been like.
I think
Bang.
It goes to show, though, how... Obviously, we get a little bit more of it later, but we know how Conrad is... You know how he lies a lot and he seemingly contradicts his own beliefs a lot. He says one thing but does another.
Yeah.
And the fact that he says he's had to put up with her insecurity and her vanity. And I'm like, don't those things kind of run opposite to each other?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if he's trying to say that she's actually vain but pretending to be insecure, or if that's just meant to be like a thing of him not really knowing what he's talking about and just contradicting himself. I don't really know, but I found that interesting.
I mean, I could agree in the sense of she could have both. In the sense of the vanity of having, you know, the doctor and being like, I was part of this, I helped the doctor do this.
Yeah.
But also the insecurity part where I said before, where she's vulnerable. She doesn't want to really talk to people about it because she fears how they feel about her and how they think about her. So
yeah,
I feel like she could have both.
Yeah.
But, oh God. I mean, I know the whole point is to hate him. I hate him.
He plays this well.
He does. The actor's very good. I hate him.
He is good because when he's playing like the the romantic lead, I buy it.
Yeah.
And then when he's playing not when he's doing the obvious red flags that are written into the script.
Yeah.
But like he's good looking and he's charming enough that I'm like, yeah, I can see him being like some heartthrob or whatever. But then when he does this, he's so good at being a dick.
Yeah.
That I'm like, yeah, I hate you.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, he says to Ruby, it's been a chore getting to know you. And then Elsa's like shoving the camera in Kate's face. I think what annoys me about this, and it's not the writing, it's done well to that effect, but I hate these kinds of people because they exist in real life.
I think
people who are permanently online, can't do anything without looking through a screen, shoving phones in your face. Like when we were at our concert like 2 days ago, do you know the amount of people I saw that were like recording like TikToks during the concert? And I don't mean TikToks of the performers. I mean TikToks of themselves, like with the front camera on. What are you doing?
I know, but I think we're quite old. I'm going to say old-fashioned in that way, but maybe it's the right way to be.
Yeah,
I think.
Let's say my point just being, I just hate these kinds of people in real life. Yeah. So watching them in TV where they're just kind of amped up to the next level for dramatic effect, I just hate these people.
I think everybody hates these people. Even these people hate these people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if the same thing happened to them, but like their beliefs were flipped, they would despise it because this is the rot of humanity. This is
the
rot. This is the purest, the arrogance.
Yeah, well, it is arrogance, isn't it? Because like I say, she's shoving the camera in Kate's face. Like there is no context where you should ever be shoving a camera in someone's face. Do you know what I mean?
There's no respect.
Kate says, put that thing away, and Elsa goes, what are you going to do, arrest us? And then like one of the guys is like, we'll sue. I'm like, mate, you're in Britain.
Yeah.
You ain't suing nobody.
If you're in America, you may have more of a chance, but in Britain, you have no chance.
You're in Britain, and you've got like... Because they established later on, after this whole thing blows up, they established that Conrad's got 80,000 followers, and they say that like it's massive. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, I know I'm recording from a podcast where, as of recording, we're on like 28 subscribers or something. So like, yeah, it's a lot in comparison, but like...
To be fair,
to be global newsworthy and to be... to have as much influence as they seem to have. 80,000 followers isn't a lot.
No, it's not.
And that's after this whole thing blows up. So right now, I can't imagine they're like living the high life and they're rich because they're like social media personalities. How the hell did they afford these practical costumes? How are they going to afford to apparently sue them?
Well, we'll come on to that later because I don't understand this.
Right, okay.
I'll bring it up now, actually. Screw it.
Okay.
I'm throwing the book out the window.
Right.
They mention about his mum is brought up later on.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah.
And they were saying about how much money he has stashed and how he was kind of providing a life for his mum in a different country.
Yeah, he bought her a villa in southern France, I think. Yeah,
something like that. And he has lots of money. I'm like, where?
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I thought it was going to be implied that he's like a big time YouTuber or like TikTok or something, and he's going to be like a millionaire. But like he's got 80,000 followers.
Yeah,
at the height of his popularity, he's not a millionaire.
No.
Like, I don't know how he's done that, because they say as well he owns like 3 properties or something. Like this guy's minted.
Yeah, and like
I don't know where he got it from. Again, you can't even say he's inherited it because he bought his mum the house.
Maybe he's...
It's not like I get it more if his mum gave him the money, but like...
I don't mean this is a terrible stereotype, and I'm very sorry, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but he seems like a guy that would be into trading. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you think he's into crypto?
He's into crypto. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think he got lucky.
Oh, he hopped on Bitcoin like really early. Yeah. And now he's like, he's reaping the rewards. Yeah.
Yeah. He seems like a guy who would do trading.
He's definitely like pumped and dumped like a new coin or something, and he's just like scammed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate tells Conrad that he's made a very dangerous mistake tonight, and Conrad says, "You don't even remember me, do you?" He says, "You just sit in your tower and do what?" And I can't remember if it's either Ruby or Shirley, but one of them says, "Protecting people like you."
Yeah.
No, it is Ruby that says that, because then he looks at her and he says, "You just can't stop lying, can you?" And he says, "There are no Shriek, there are no Cybermen, there are no Sycorax, and there are no Yetis in the underground."
I have so many questions there.
Yes.
Did she face all of those? I don't think... Well, maybe she did off screen.
That's not about Ruby, is it? I think that's just on about Unit in general.
So he's done his research on Unit then.
Well, I guess he wouldn't have to do research for most of those because they would have been in his lifetime.
Would they?
Well, the Sycorax, yeah, that was Christmas 2006.
The Yeti...
Yeti in the Underground is the only one he would have had to do research for because that was in the Web of Fear.
Yeah.
So that's a second Doctor story. But obviously, the Shriek, this episode. Cybermen...
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
And Sycorax, yeah, Christmas 2006.
Yeah.
So it would have been the year before he met the Doctor.
Yeah.
So he would have been, a kid. You probably would have remembered it. So you probably didn't have to research that much. But, so he says, all the aliens are lies and special effects paid for by the taxpayers, hiding their real agenda.
Which is what?
Well, that's the thing. I was waiting for him to say it, and he just never does.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's the point.
Yeah.
Is that he's making this stuff up, but he doesn't actually have any, what's the word?
Anything. He doesn't have any point or any proof.
Yeah, it's not even proof. He doesn't actually have something to accuse them of doing.
Yeah.
He's got a cause. He wants to bring them down, but like he's saying, it's hiding their real agenda, but he doesn't actually have something to claim as their real agenda. It's just trying to stir. Well, I'll talk about it in a minute because he kind of, I don't know, outs himself by accident. I'll tell you in a minute. But
well, this is what I don't understand. I know humanity are terrible, but if you were watching this, right, and like the recordings that they're doing, and you saw this guy just rip this poor girl to shreds and being like, I've had to get to know you and all your stories and you're mad. And she said she's standing there with the heartbroken look she's got. Would you be like, yeah, go you? Or would you be like, what a douche? Like, you've obviously played this poor girl to get to this situation.
Well, I guess if you're in this kind of echo chamber of disinformation, as Kate says later, it's that thing of like, I don't know, imagine like if you heard this story happen but someone did it to like Trump, like would you feel bad for Trump? So, I mean, you probably wouldn't, do you know what I mean? So it's like, if in your brain, if you're like looking at the enemy, and bear in mind, you are more empathetic than the average person.
I guess.
So if you're like, if there's someone that you see in your head as the enemy, someone that's been lying to you and taking your tax money and doing shady stuff and lying and keeping the truth from you, and then you just see someone else just basically dress them down in public. Do you know what I mean?
It's one of those things, right? A great example is in like the Secret Services and stuff.
Right.
They've said there's been like a few cases of this in history through all, Secret Services where they've had a undercover spy go in and try gain information, and these spies have, whether that's fallen in love or,
Are you thinking of Avatar?
No, I'm not. This is a thing.
I know, but this is the plot of Avatar.
Basically, well, no, it's
this
not.
This is Dances with Wolves. This is Pocahontas.
It's not that at all. That's the point. These people have gone into other people's lives. You could argue these people have been the bad guys. You could argue these people have just had a different cause. And they've posed as their loved ones. They've got married. They've had children. And then these people that they've built a life with have had the rug completely pulled from them.
I see what you mean.
When they realise that they're actually undercover and they've just been gaining information off them for 10, 15 years. Do you mean, I don't think I think it's something that's so inhumane to do that to somebody. Luckily, they hadn't been together for very long, but to use somebody like that in such a personal way, I think that is just the most evil thing.
It's been a chore getting to know you.
That's what I mean. Like,
God, that's salt in the wound.
That's what I mean. For her finding out that he's been using her anyway is terrible, but for him then to take he's basically said, any thought you may have had that I liked you, I'm going to completely just throw that away. I'm going to make you know that I've never felt any of those feelings for you, and you were just there for me to get to Unit. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
He's just a horrible person.
He's saying like, all the aliens are lies and special effects paid for by the taxpayers. Shirley says the alien threat is real, and then he looks at her like, you know, like the David Schwimmer like thumb thing, was like, get a load of this guy. He like does that, and he's like, this one's collecting benefits, stealing our taxes while she lies to us.
I know. And then they have like the person's like recording her, and she's just sitting there. I was like, I can't believe it.
Well, that's what I mean. That makes him sound so out of touch and so, like such a dick. But that's the thing. The people, the kind of like echo chamber he's made here, and I guess that is the point. They are very over the top and stuff, I get it, but I guess the whole point of these people create, is as crazy as they are, they create this like echo chamber of people who believe very strongly about a certain thing to the point where they just delude each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you know, it's like the people who think like all of Britain's problems, whether it's financial or, you know, political or whatever, it's always because of the immigrants, and that's always it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the immigrants are coming over here, and I'm paying my taxes to keep the immigrants. Yeah, at the same time, it's also the immigrants are taking all our jobs. And like, it can't really be both, but somehow people believe it is both.
It's because there's just no logic.
Well, that's the thing. It's you once you're in that circle of like disinformation, it's just kind of like you just get a bunch of people basically encouraging each other, parroting things they hear other people say. Yeah.
And it's the whole thing of like, we think for ourselves. You obviously don't.
Yeah.
One person has a stupid idea and
that's
you'll
exactly
run with it.
They all claim to be free thinkers, yet all they do is parrot each other. They just parrot people who say things. The kind of people like, I say things everyone else is too scared to say, and then someone hears that and goes, yeah, that's right, and then they parrot it as if it was their original thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sadly, that is the world we live in. But I just don't want that from Doctor Who, okay?
I don't mind that being done in Doctor Who, but this is where I'm kind of like torn on this bit, because they are very over the top. Like I say, the way Conrad talks is so, like, he's such a villain. There is no ambiguity in here that, oh, well, from his side, I mean, no, he is cartoonishly evil.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this conversation about like disinformation and setting up these like bubbles of, you know, like-minded people who don't necessarily think in a logical way, I think that's a very real issue, and I think it's something really important and good for a show like this to tackle. It's just the way it's done. I don't know. I'm torn. That's what I mean. I feel kind of like torn on this. But yeah, after basically accusing Shirley of benefit fraud, Ruby says, he says they just reject cosplayers at this point.
Yeah. And
Conrad says, you've gifted me this moment, Ruby Sunday. Is that even your real name, by the way? Because it's ridiculous.
Fair.
Wow.
Fair.
And
do you know what? This one moment made me think, again, this is just me just spouting random thoughts, but you know, we've kind of had that thing in this series so far, but a lot with Mrs. Flood, with breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And part of me was like, I wonder if that's relevant.
What's this?
Yeah. He's like, is that even your real name? This is
I see what you mean.
That's a stupid made up name. And I was like,
I see what you mean. Right?
I'm like, well, it is a made up name.
Yeah.
But is it a made up name? Do you know what I mean? Is this? I can't
even say like that's stupid, because anything's on the table now.
Yeah.
After Lux, anything's on the table. Do you know what I mean?
Table.
Yeah. So at this point, Kate says, arrest them all. So unit, arrest everybody. And now we smash cut to our typical Russell T Davies era news montage.
Oh, you love this.
We got Trinity Wells.
Yeah, she's back.
She's back on her own talk show. I'm really sad she's gone really like right wing. She's gone really conservative.
Did she?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
What did she say?
Because she was like it in The Giggle as well when she appeared. But she's doing it here. She says, fascism on the streets. She goes, an innocent podcaster is in custody after a harmless stunt in a British village.
Oh, yeah. She did. But later on, she says something that I thought that contradicted it. But
I don't know.
Carry on.
Yeah, we cut to BBC News, and we find out that Conrad was arrested for civil unrest, but was released after social media backlash. Again, that's something that's like, that's so like right now. Do you know what I mean? In this era, like the fact that social media and social media backlash can have an effect on the law.
Oh yeah.
And the way that the country is run is ridiculous.
Yeah.
no, like, we should not have given people that loud of a voice. That shouldn't be allowed.
Well, this is the issue, because they do mention something in a moment, which I think is...
Well, we cut to the one show.
Well,
And Alex,
that wasn't what I was going to say, but carry on.
Alex Jones is like, they were pointing guns at you. And he goes, that's how they suppress us, with fear. And that's the moment I was on about earlier when I said I think he kind of outs himself. Because that's what he's essentially doing. When we're talking about him not having an actual, I don't know, without having any, like, sustenance to his arguments, do you know what I mean? Of, like, he's accusing them of hiding the real agenda, but he doesn't really know what the real agenda is, because he knows it's not true, but he's essentially using fear to basically control people into behaving and thinking in a way that he wants. But that's what he's accusing them of doing, so he's just kind of being a massive hypocrite. During this entire, like, news montage, Ruby is, like, crying on the sofa with her mum's next to her, like, trying to comfort her. Conrad is live streaming and he just doxes, like, all the unit employees, which is super illegal. He should have been arrested for that. He'd just be released because of social media backlash again, I expect. He's like, these are the names and addresses of everyone who works at UNIT. I'm like, man, can you imagine if he did that for, like, MI5 or something?
I mean, Snowden.
What do you mean?
So there was an American guy going, well, he was I believe he was
How long ago was this?
10 years ago, 15 years ago, who basically did the same thing. For the CIA.
Oh, right, okay.
And some British spies. He outed them and put information out there.
Oh.
He then fled. I can't remember where he went. I think, again, this may be a bit... I'm not 100% sure on this. I remember seeing about this on the news. I want to say he went to, like, Russia or somewhere, basically where people couldn't extradite him for huge, like, war crimes.
It's like when the Nazis fled to Argentina. Yeah.
So, again, I don't know whether he's still alive. There was a period...
I never heard of that.
Yeah, it was huge, obviously, because it was a massive data breach.
Yeah.
And there was huge panic because it was trying to get all like operatives that were in field, trying to get them home because obviously their lives were in danger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it was also that thing of, it wasn't just people who were spies, as in the sense were like in the field. It was also people, your back office staff. It was their information was also put out there. So it was also that sense of, basically mass panic. Yeah. And again, he just fled.
That's me. I'm surprised that Conrad got away with this, if I'm honest. But yeah,
he wouldn't. He just wouldn't.
Yeah, he doxes everyone. Ruby obviously can't stay home anymore because everyone has her address. There are people rioting outside her house, so she gets escorted to Unit Tower by Unit, obviously. And as she gets in the car, there are people like throwing stuff at the window, and there's like people protesting outside. They're going like, "Unit lies, Unit spies." Trinity Wells says, "He's appealing to the disaffected youth and they're listening." Trinity, you let me down.
Yeah.
But again, that whole thing, that appealing to the disaffected youth, that's just so like Andrew Tate and like that kind of crowd, you know what I mean? Just like, just awful people. And then we get this montage of like social media posts and people basically saying hashtag down with UNIT and all that stuff.
This is where it's interesting, which I think is very real. They mentioned that the government is looking to pull funding from UNIT.
Yes. Because
they fear that if they don't do so, that their parties will lose favour.
Yeah, so so in Unit Tower, Shirley tells Ruby basically 8 years ago Conrad applied to work there. Kate even interviewed him. And I did the maths on this to work out. 8 years ago, by the way, would have been series 10. So, ew.
Yeah.
Because 8 years ago sounded like ages ago. But then when I heard that basically means during Capaldi's run.
How old is Conrad? Do we know?
Well, what we know is when he saw the Shriek in the shop with the Doctor and Ruby, that was 17 years after 2007, which obviously goes to 2024. So how old was he in the flashback?
8.
70.
Is he the same age as us?
18 years after. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, yikes. Okay, well, I guess Because -8 from... Yeah, he would be 18 when he applied then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yep.
Do you know what? I hate this because part of me felt like he was older than us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. That's me. I remember when I heard that Millie Gibson was cast, I was like, oh man, the companion's younger than me.
Yeah.
And then I had that thing of like, as soon as the Doctor gets younger than me, I'm just calling it quits. I'm pretty sure we are the age that Matt Smith was when he was cast.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's horrible. Thanks, life. But yeah, 8 years ago. So when you applied for UNIT, it was Capaldi lecturing at the university.
Oh, I wish Capaldi was there. He would have just dressed him down.
Oh yeah, we needed a Dr. 12 speech to put him in his place, didn't we? Can you imagine how Nine would have dealt with him? Nine would kill yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, oh God, 9 would have been venomous.
Yeah. But yeah, Conrad applied to work there. Kate interviewed him. Shirley says, this is a grudge dressed up as a youth movement. And Ruby says, it's more than that. It's about power. He's been craving attention since his mother died, and now he has a voice. And this is when Shirley says, yeah, his mother's not dead, by the way.
Yeah.
Moira Clark lives in southern France in a villa bought by Conrad. He owns 3 properties and is a tax dodger.
Yeah.
Of course he is. So again, more hypocrisy. That whole thing about they're stealing our taxes. He doesn't pay tax.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, he's such a douche. Yeah, this is when Kate arrives. She asks why a holding capsule is outside on the helipad. And is it the Colonel? I think it's the Colonel. Colonel Ibrahim says like Geneva are relocating. She's just come back from Parliament. She says they only care about their jobs. If there's enough pressure, they'll fold and they'll support a full inventory of unit premises.
Yeah.
She says, imagine what politicians will do with their tech.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah,
it does make you think.
That's a realistic kind of
It is.
consequence that I never thought the show would tackle.
It is, but it's also one of those things of like, my God, you really shouldn't have this.
Well, unit.
Yeah. Like, humanity shouldn't have this.
Yeah.
Like, this should be removed.
By who?
The Doctor. Just be taken and put into the sun. Do you know what I mean? I know they have the information to create this tech. I know a lot of it is alien.
I guess that's maybe the difference between UNIT and Torchwood, is that Torchwood were kind of a law unto themselves, weren't they? And that's the thing. They took things from like ships that had crashed, and then they used that technology to like blow up the Sycorax ship, and the Doctor's like really annoyed about it.
Yeah.
Where I feel like because the Doctor worked for UNIT for so long, he sees them as the good guys almost.
Yeah. They're a bit more morally well.
Yeah.
We're a bit more morally.
It seems like Torchwood's
clear.
thing is all about protecting the Earth,
Yeah.
where UNIT's thing is about basically keeping everything a bit hush.
Yeah.
So Torchwood are like, hey, this alien ship has crash landed. We're going to take the tech, see what we can salvage from it, maybe reverse engineer it, and then we'll maybe have developed a new weapon that we can use to defend ourselves. Where UNIT would be like, hey, the ship has crashed. We need to take this tech and lock it away so no one can ever use it.
Yeah. Where they should destroy it.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, when something's so alien, how do you know how to safely destroy it? Do you know what I mean? How'd you be like, oh, look, there's a gun here, I'm going to destroy it, and then you like set it on fire and you just blow up the planet or something.
I guess.
Yeah. Ruby asks how Conrad got a staff list, and Kate assumes that someone, well, he's got someone on the inside, basically, like a mole. The Vlinx is scanning the database for staff members. Love the Vlinx. Yeah, he's scanning the database for staff members who have ties to Conrad, and he says the 2 results: Ruby Sunday, and Ruby's like, yeah, we can fast forward that one, and then Jordan Lang, who was the scientific kind of advisor from earlier. And yeah, Kate says he follows dozens of radical blogs. He has a subscription to Albion TV, revisionist podcast. It's an echo chamber of disinformation. Now that's the point where I'm like, yes, that is the theme of this episode. You didn't have to say it's all fine and dandy, but as soon as you say it's an echo chamber of disinformation, I feel like I'm having the message spelt out to me.
I mean, I think we already passed that point, but okay.
But no, but this is like, you don't have to say it, do you know what I mean? That's like at the end of Orphan 55 when Jodie says like, if you guys don't stop polluting the planet, then... And then we like smash cut to the big like mutant things.
So this is your future.
Yeah, that's like, I feel like someone might as well just turn to the camera and go, you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Albion TV, though, that he's got a subscription to. I don't know how well you remember this, but the Albion party was led by Roger William in 73 Yards.
Yeah.
Obviously, during that episode, Ruby spends like a whole life going there, so the party hasn't maybe fully developed yet.
Yeah.
But Albion TV, I'm assuming, is like a precursor to that. So Roger William's still to come. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting that it's kind of tied these two Dr. Light, Ruby Sunday focused stories together. Downstairs, we see Jordan, who tases one of the guards, and he lets Conrad in through a security door. Conrad tries to take the guard's gun off him, but Jordan's like, what do you need guns for? We don't need them. And then they start kind of like scuffling together, kind of fighting, and then you just hear like shots.
Yeah.
And then back upstairs, Shirley says there's confirmed officers down. Conrad's coming up in the lift. And Colonel Ibrahim basically goes up to Kate and says, you need to authorize a deadlock seal on the level. And Kate kind of takes a moment to think, and she just says, let him come. So at this point, the lift dings. Conrad steps out, and he's holding a gun, and he's aiming it at everyone.
Got his little GoPro on his chest.
Yeah, he's got like a camera basically taped to his chest. And he says, the world is watching. He's live streaming from his phone. And he's like, yeah, so don't get trigger happy. Ibrahim says, put the gun down. Conrad says, I don't take orders from strangers. Yeah, he says, I'm exposing the truth. And Ruby says, this isn't about a cause, it's grandstanding and ego. He says, you're just a little boy who can't bear being called out.
Yeah.
And then he points the gun at Ruby, and then Kate gets really pissed. And Kate goes, don't you dare point a gun at her. Yes, Kate.
Yeah.
Badass.
I love her. And do you know what? I'm with the decision she made.
Yeah. Kate says, he's right. She says, you're right. I didn't remember you, but I went back through my notes from that interview. And you know the 3 words I used to sum you up? Don't trust him. And then he looks kind of annoyed, and then he kind of puts on like a smirk. And he just says, I want a confession. He says, show us the monster costumes and the tech that we paid for. And, he's such a prick. Ruby goes, you're deluded. And he goes, the grown-ups are talking.
Yeah.
He's such a dick.
Yeah.
He's such a dish. Yeah. He tells Kate to admit it. He says, or are you a coward like your father was? Oh, you don't insult the Brigadier in this house, mate.
I wish he was there at this point as a Cyberman, just that. Pew!
Oh, God forbid the Doctor was there to hear that.
I think.
Yeah.
See, this is where we needed the Doctor.
Well, that comes up in a minute, doesn't it? But he says, regarding the Brigadier, Conrad says his legacy was a pack of lies. And Kate says he was 100 times the man you are. And she says, hold on, that gun is unit issue. Where's Jordan? And then Colonel Ibrahim hears on the comms that he's been shot and he's on his way to the infirmary. So Kate says, you shot someone to get in here. And Conrad, he seems to panic for a moment, and then again turns on the smarm and says, nothing to do with me. And she's like, a man's life is in the balance and you're not even sorry. And he says, maybe you shot him, or maybe he was an actor, or maybe he never even existed. Conrad says, where's the Doctor now? And Ruby said, you're lucky he's not here. And Kate says, yeah, I'm glad he's not here, because he would have stopped me.
I was like, at this point, I was like, yes.
Yeah, so he's like, what are you going to do?
Do something morally grey.
And she goes over to the the controls, and she hits a button, and she opens the containment capsule on the helipad. And Conrad 180s to see it, and he's like, what's in there? And Kate says, it's hunting you. It can feel your heartbeat.
Toy with him. God.
Yeah, she's like, it can hear the blood flowing through your veins. And it's it kind of jumps up into the ceiling vents, and it's kind of stalking him. The Shriek, obviously. And she says, how committed are you to the lies you've told? And he freaks out. He tries to leave and hit the button for the lift, but the Vlinx shuts the building down.
Yeah. She's all cameras streaming to Conrad's social media.
Yeah.
You're in lockdown. You could have seen she's loving this.
Yeah.
She's loving toying with him.
He's panicking. The Shriek is hunting him. And Ruby says, we need to help him. He's shooting around as well. He's firing the gun every now and then until he runs out of ammo. And then he gets cornered. and the Shriek like jumps down. He's kind of like sat down leaning against one of the desks, and the Shriek jumps down and starts like inching closer to him, like just slower and slower, just like kind of freaking him out. And he asks him to stop it. He's like, please make it stop. And Kate says, but you said it's not real. He's like, admit you were lying. And he goes, okay, I admit it, I lied. And then at this point, Shirley gives Ruby a taser, and Ruby walks over and just like tasers the Shriek and just knocks it out.
Yeah.
And he kind of like takes a moment and he says thank you, and she just goes, go to hell, and walks away. And then they're just kind of standing there looking at him, and then he like slowly gets up, and then once again he's like, his face goes from like
scared and
concerned to then he turns on that like smarmy smile and just says, at least your special effects are improving.
And then it bites him.
Yeah, and then the Shriek jumps up and bites his arm, and he goes, ah! And then it just cuts to black. Then we cut to the next morning, and Ruby's just crying on the helipad. Poor Ruby. She's had a bad time.
She's not only got PTSD from all the stuff she's been through with the doctor, but now she has even less trust issues.
Great, now she has emotional scars.
Well, I think she already had that, but to me, she finally opened up to somebody.
And he was a wrong'un.
And he was the wrongest of wrong'uns.
Yeah. Ibrahim tells Kate that Conrad and Jordan will live. He also says last night went too far.
He was like, Geneva's
going to have something to say about this. Which, again, I wonder if that's maybe setting something up for the finale.
It might set something up for the spin-off.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, I like that he's willing to stand up to Kate. He doesn't just let her do. Well, he did just let her do it, but I like that he confronted her afterwards and said, "You
went too far."
Yeah, you went too far.
Disagree, but all right.
Yeah. Shirley's like on her phone or a tablet or something, and she says, "On the bright side, I stand with UNIT is a hashtag. So is Hot Taser Lady."
Yeah.
She says, "Is that you or me?" And then like wheels away, and Ruby now like talks to Kate and says, this is the moment you were talking about earlier where she says, I've been so like in limbo and I've just been waiting for something to happen. I think I need some time away on my own to kind of process what I've been through.
Yeah.
And Kate basically says, when you're ready, or if you're ready to talk, just call me. And then they hug. And they have this really nice moment.
I like this little...
Well, when Shirley walks past and says, you've already got 2 mums, do you collect them?
Yeah, I like that. That was good.
Yeah. And now we cut over to Conrad, who's sat in a jail cell.
Has he lost his arm and this is have they reattached his arm? Is it
I don't know.
Arm?
I don't think they've reattached his arm. He's got like a...
It's like a band, isn't it?
Yeah, like a band around his arm, like where the wound would be, I assume. I doubt it's something that's reattached his arm. I assume it's just some kind of unit tech that's like a bandage or is healing him or something. I don't know. Yeah, he's in the jail cell. He's kind of sat on the bed, and then we hear the TARDIS start to land. Because initially I thought it's going to land like on like outside the building, because you can see like a typical prison kind of like window like with bars. But no, it's kind of landing around him, so he's materializing inside the TARDIS. And the doctor says, the Shriek is back in its hive. No need to thank me.
What do you think about this whole moment? Yeah.
I love this moment to the degree where I've basically written down the doctor's speech in its entirety because I don't want to paraphrase it because I think it's great.
Go ahead.
So he says, the Shriek's back in its hive. No need to thank me. And he tells Conrad, you need to be special to enter my TARDIS. He says, but you're special for all the wrong reasons. And then, so I've basically written it down here. So he says, you see, I'm fighting a battle on behalf of everyday people who just want to get through their day and feel safe and warm and fed. And then along comes this noise. All day long, this relentless noise. Cowards like you, weaponizing lies, taking people's insecurity and fear and making it currency. You are exhausting. You stamp on the truth, choke our bandwidth and shred our patience because the only strategy you have is to wear us down. But the thing is, Conrad, I have energy to burn and all the time in the universe. And Conrad just laughs and says, what is this, an intervention? Are you here to save my soul? And the doctor says, you betrayed my friend And Conrad says, you've had plenty of friends. Have you met Belinda Chandra yet? And the doctor goes, who? And then he kind of like stops and goes, you want spoilers? I'll tell you your future. You die in a prison cell, boiling in anger and poison until your heart packs in at age 49, alone and unloved, forgotten. The world carries on. The world gets better. You aren't even a footnote, just ashes on the wind. Damn.
You say damn. I do think damn. I wanted him to go another step, though.
No, I think...
I wanted more.
I love this moment because this is what I've been waiting for from Ncuti. I like Ncuti as the Doctor a lot. But I've had this thing, because he's so much more like... Because he's so free of the guilt and everything that he's carried up to this point, because 14 had his...
We don't get anger from him, do we, really?
Not really. And when we do, it seems more like in the moment irritation. But this is the first time where, this is the moment where you see that 2,000-year-old, Time Lord kind of stick his head out again. And this is kind of like a 10th Doctor moment almost.
Yeah, I just wanted more.
I don't know what more you want from him. I
wanted him to mention his mum.
Oh, God. No, because I don't think...
I wanted more Venom.
I don't know how you could mention his mum without it just being like a your mum joke. Do you know what I mean?
No,
because if he was just like, your mum would be so ashamed of you, he's not going to care, is he?
Well, not just...
Because he's so selfish. The only way to get to him is to tell him, you're going to die alone, and everything you've ever worked for is going to be meaningless. You're not even a footnote in history. You didn't leave a mark. You're not a martyr. You are nothing. Everything you've done has been for nothing.
I know,
That's the only way you're going to get through to someone like this.
I know, but I feel like I wanted... He's too freaking smarmy.
I know he is, and that's the thing. That's why...
Because it feels like it does... It kind of like makes him reflect a little bit, but it doesn't do enough.
Well, no, it doesn't, because after he says that, again, reminder, his last words were, you aren't even a footnote, just ashes on the wind. Yeah. And what Conrad says is, I don't accept your reality, Doctor. I reject it. So put me back in my prison and get off my world.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. He's like, the Doctor's not giving him an opinion.
Yeah.
The Doctor's told him, I'm a time traveler and this is what's going to happen. And he says, I don't accept your reality. And some of those things like, you don't get to choose. That's not something that happens. But he's so deluded that he thinks he can just choose to avoid the truth. And at that point, I think the Doctor realizes this is going nowhere. And he just clicks his fingers. And then Conrad's back in jail. But yeah, I love that moment. I think that's like a moment I've been waiting for a moment like that from the 15th Doctor, and that's probably my favorite part of this episode.
I agree. I don't know. I know that's the whole point, because the whole point of this is you'll never get through to people like this. There's no reasoning. They just are the way they are. Yeah. I would have liked the Doctor to have had more of an impact on him. Even if he said what he said and then clicked and popped him in the cell so he didn't even get a chance to say something back to him. Yeah.
I guess that defeats the point, though. But that's what I mean. I get what you mean. But you feel the way you do because you want him to get his comeuppance. Yeah. Where the way it is like...
He doesn't get his comeuppance. He has the last word and then is released from his cell.
Yeah, well, so... He's back in his cell, and at this point, Mrs. Flood appears at the door.
This woman. Who are you? Stop testing my patience.
Well, yeah, Conrad says, did I imagine that? And she says, no, sweetheart. It's ever so big, isn't it?
I do love her.
And he says, who are you? And she says, I'm the governor, and it's your lucky day. And she, like, jingles the keys, obviously implying she's going to let him out. And that's it.
Not your lucky day.
Lucky day.
Lucky day.
Yeah. That's lucky day. Yeah. So overall, if you had to give like a score to this episode out of 10, how are you feeling? Because I struggled initially, similar with how I did with Lux, but I feel like I came around and was able to make a decision a bit sooner. But yeah, I'll let you go first because I don't want to kind of like sway you. But
Don't make me go first. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Overall, taking in the good and the bad, would you say this is an above, below, or just medium, like average episode of Doctor Who?
I can't answer that. All I can tell you is I can't tell you how it is. All I can tell you is how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
But I don't want to give it a score because it doesn't mean its quality isn't high. It just means how I feel about it isn't
Do you
great.
think you're looking at it... Do you think you're worried about the fact that you're feeling negative towards it because you want him to get his comeuppance, and the fact that he doesn't makes you
not just
frustrated and makes you feel like you have this thing of like, I would have written it differently because I would have wanted him to get his comeuppance type of thing?
No, not just that, but I think it's... What I like about Doctor Who, and it's very clear from my favourites, is I like the escapism. I like even though there's, peril and there's danger, I like the fact that it's not attached to our world.
Okay.
My favourite things, or if it is,
so you don't like the contemporary episodes then, set in present day?
I hate contemporary episodes, and I hate when it's like humanity is the issue, because again, this is very
but 73 yards was so good.
It was, but it was an outlier.
What about the Caretaker? That's set in present day.
Yeah, but it's Capaldi, okay, so that doesn't count. I think the issue is. For me, I don't know. I feel, again, this might be a generalisation, but for things like this and the messages that these episodes bring, I sometimes feel like you're saying these messages to a crowd who's already on board.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, again, and you could argue with Praxius less so much because less people care about the environment.
Because something like the environment is less of a moral issue and it's more of a convenience issue, isn't it? Like most people aren't like, yeah, screw the world, I want it to burn. Most people just don't recycle because it's inconvenient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, Kablam is capitalism, and again, not
again, it's the thing of like, I don't like Amazon, but it sure is convenient having that next day delivery.
Yeah, but who the hell is having... It's convenient to spread...
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, it is a bit kind of like preaching to the converted a little bit. I understand that. And I feel like even if you get people who maybe are these kind of people watching this episode, the people who complain that Doctor Who is Doctor Woke now and all that stuff, they're probably not going to...
They're not going to reflect
They're either not going to reflect and realise that this is about them, or if they do, they're just going to complain about it being on the nose and the show being woke.
Yeah.
So
I again, I like my fantasy, I like my escapism, and this doesn't give that to me.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's... But not to say that it didn't have moments that I loved. I loved getting to see Ruby more. I hope we get to see more of this.
Yeah. I liked the side of Kate we got here as well. Because we got... I feel like we got to see a side of Kate that we haven't really seen before. I like the developing relationship between her and the Colonel.
I mean, do you know what? I know this sounds mad because it completely changes it. But I would have loved for this episode to have focused more on Ruby and for the paranoia to be more true, for her, for the point of where she's worrying that it is I've forgotten their name.
The Shriek.
The Shriek, thank you. Worrying it was the Shriek, and then maybe knowing, not having an antidote, but knowing that he had been marked and having that worry constantly.
Do you know what? This reminds me of the conversation we had during Lux, sorry. When we were talking about I like the animation cartoon thing, Mr. Ring-a-Ding and all that, and I'm also really interested in the meta stuff, but I feel like maybe they would have been better as two separate episodes, because I don't want to say cut the meta stuff because I think it's really interesting, but I feel like it would have been better if it was the focus of its own episode.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel similarly here because I like both of these things, but yeah, maybe if we had an entire episode dedicated to Ruby's paranoia.
Yeah.
And that was the theme of the episode. And then we had the disinformation episode be a different one.
I understand, obviously, because we have so few episodes now as well. It's even harder because they have such
yeah,
a budget.
because they've only got
restrict-
like 8 episodes a season now, and you know 2 of those are always going to be a 2-part finale. So that's,
Exactly.
even though you have 8 episodes, it's only 7 stories really.
Yeah. So
And you're never going to do a story like that as episode 1.
no.
So in reality, that brings you down to like 6.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I mean. That's what I mean. I would have loved that, to get more from that, because it's not fantasy, but
Yeah.
it's having that thing of like, well, you know, to see the impact that these stories would have had on the companions,
Yeah.
and how it would have affected their lives afterwards. And again, I hope we get to see more from Ruby, and
Yeah.
maybe how she's dealing
Me
with
too. I
life
think she's
after.
coming back for the finale. I think it's obviously implied that Conrad's going to be back in the finale.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
So I'm interested in how that's going to play out with the Doctor being there with him.
Yeah.
And it's this thing, because up to this point, regarding Mrs. Flood, we've not really known whether or not she's on the Doctor's side or not, because she's been very neutral until last week, when it actually seemed like she was maybe on the Doctor's side, because she asked if he was using the Vindicator, didn't she? And Mo said yes. And
I didn't think she was, because the way she said it,
well, what she says is like,
things are on track.
she says, "Oh, that's very good news. Things are on track."
Yeah.
So but that doesn't. I know what you mean about the way she said it, but that doesn't inherently imply she's against the Doctor.
No, but
Where
I got the
from
vibe.
this episode, we very much get the impression that she is.
Listen, I got the vibe from last week's episode that she was. It was like, oh yes, things are on the right path to destruction. We're heading to.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because the way
To
she
the
said,
date.
like, it's ever so big, isn't it? She doesn't sound like someone who hates the Doctor. Do you know what I mean? It's. I'm very curious where they're going with this.
I think I'm sure I'm completely wrong, but she's got to be some sort of Time Lord. She has to be.
I feel like any Time Lord, if she ends up being any Time Lord, whether it's the Master or the Rani or Rassilon or whoever, if she's revealed to be any kind of Time Lord, I'm going to be disappointed.
I know.
That
And-
doesn't explain why she can break the fourth wall.
Because if she was,
I'd assume she's got to be something to do with the Pantheon, right?
she could be something to do with the Pantheon, but then the other gods haven't toyed as much as she has. She's waited a long time.
That's what I mean. Maybe she's the big bad.
I don't know, because I would have thought that, you know, the god of death, Sutek, would have been the big bad. I like how much worse can you get than that?
I guess it depends on your point of view, though, doesn't it? Because it's like, if you're the kind of person who thinks death is the end, all of everything, then yeah, okay, you seemed like that. But if you look at it from like a, I don't know, you know, like Greek gods and stuff, like death is just another thing. Like death isn't the biggest bad there is. Death is just a natural part of life.
I guess, but I don't
Do you
know.
know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think she's going to be part of the Pantheon.
I say we still don't know who picked up the gold tooth that the Master was in the
No,
giggle.
We don't.
So I'm assuming that's going to come into play.
What
here.
if-
I don't know.
What if she is
Is the what?
the master?
But that's what I mean. I said I'd be really disappointed if she is. Because that's such a... Not only cop-out, that's so boring. Like, that is so boring.
I know. But then...
If I'm going to say this right here.
Oh.
If Mrs. Flood is the Master, I'm going to stop watching this show.
You can't say that. What if it is? What if she is?
Then I'll stop watching the show.
Well, she said she's the governor.
It's my favourite Time Lord, the Governor. No, like... If she's revealed to be the Master, not only will I be annoyed because it's literally only been like it wouldn't have even been a season since we saw the Master last. Bear in mind, we saw the Master in Power of the Doctor, and then it would have been the 360th specials, and then Mrs. Flood was in Church of Ruby Road. So with that like knowledge in there, it would have been 4 episodes, and then the Master's back. Like that would just be a letdown anyway. But then, yeah, that would just be such an anticlimactic reveal. Like that's nothing. Like the reason the Missy reveal worked is because we never actually considered that the Master would have done a gender swap.
Yeah.
And that's why next time they did a Master reveal, it wasn't like, who is this sinister lady? Oh, sorry, who is this sinister man? Oh, reveal he's the Master. They had to have him pretend to be a good guy.
Didn't you say there's an evil version of the Doctor?
Yeah, I haven't got there yet, so I don't know it in full detail, but there's a character in the Sixth Doctor's era in the Trial of a Time Lord called the Valyard.
Maybe it's the Valyard.
Because we know what the Valyard looks like, and the Valyard's a man.
Couldn't they be multiple?
I mean, it's Doctor, probably anything's possible. Isn't it?
I guess, yeah. But anyway, we're just speculating now. But
yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
Right.
How do you feel about it?
I feel like I've already said. I feel like, there are things I like, there are things I don't like, there's interesting ideas, maybe some of them could have been fleshed out a little more while other things were toned down a little bit, but overall I think I lean more positive than I do negative. I was very unsure after the first watch.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how much of that was because my brother told me he hated it.
Maybe.
So maybe that kind of, I don't know, swayed me one way or the other. I don't really know.
You were looking for the negative.
Yeah, but honestly, coming out of this, I'd give this like a 6. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You still avoiding a number?
If I was to give an unbiased what I think technically it should be placed at,
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 5 or a 6.
Okay.
If I was going to do it personally,
Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 2.
Okay.
Because
Hey, you didn't enjoy this then?
No, so much so. Right, again, a little bit of behind the scenes. Connor asked me if I could assist with some note taking, just for like the sequence wise.
Yeah, in terms of when I make my notes, I write down the progression of events so we can kind of flow through these things. I asked you to make these notes for me whilst I was driving back from Birmingham.
And I said no.
Yeah, you said no because you didn't want to watch it again.
I didn't want to watch it again.
Yeah, so
I think this is... the worst thing is I know this episode is going to be important to the overall series arc.
Yeah.
And possibly the finale.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this would be an episode for me that I would skip if I were to rewatch.
Spicy.
But again, it's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I like my little fantasy things.
I know.
And this wasn't it. This wasn't fantasy. It was too real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humanity was the villain all along.
We know
Our
this.
favourite trope.
We know this, okay? This isn't new.
Yeah.
You want about redone and reused? That's done more than the Daleks.
Well, now, Charlotte, it's time for a very, very, very brief trivia time.
Right. Have we got an alternate title?
No.
Oh. I was just wondering.
Well, I say that. When I did a bit of research, I did hear one person say that a working title for this was Meanwhile, but that didn't have a source. There was no citation. So that was, as far as I'm aware, that's something that someone just made up. I don't know.
But I kind of prefer it.
Okay. Yeah, the only things I wanted to mention, one was this answers that question from the Robot Revolution when the Doctor mentioned that he talks to Belinda and he said, he told me about you, and we didn't know who he was.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's obviously Conrad, so we know that now, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Which it might make the Robot Revolution a bit, I don't know, it might just add something to that experience next time I watch it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and this is so inconsequential, but Ruby's first encounter with the Shriek was referenced in a novel called Caged that came out back in June 2024.
Oh.
So there's a 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday novel, and they apparently just referenced the Shriek in there. Yeah. The events of that. But then we didn't actually see it on TV until like a year later. So, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about Lucky Day?
I don't know.
No? Me either. Good. We'll end it there.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for listening. I feel like there were a lot of rambles and a lot of tangents in this one.
Yeah, apologies as always.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you all very much for listening. We appreciate you very much. Don't forget to leave a like if you're listening to this on YouTube. You can subscribe to keep up with everything we're doing. You can follow us on YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify, or what's the other one?
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, There we go. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I zoned out.
Yeah. You can find us on any of those platforms. yeah, I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode where there's going to be a pretty big spider.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I'm actually really looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, me too. It looks cool.
I'm not looking forward to the spider.
Yeah, fair enough. But until then, guys, stay safe. Stay away from podcasters.
Oh, I was gonna say stay away from men who post shirtless pics on Instagram.
Yeah, that too. Stay away from guys holding big fish.
Oh no!
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.